Not every game needs to be a battle royale, but Naruto is especially suited for this genre, and it's honestly surprising that nothing's in the works yet. Or maybe there is something in the works, that just haven't told us yet. Naruto was doing battle royale before it was a trend in video games. The Chunin exams, particularly the Forest of Death exam, was a team-based battle royale basically. The winner wasn't a single team, sure, it was half of the contenders, but if you think about it, a team of 3 ninja drop into a forest, and they survive by hiding, scouting enemy teams, trying to figure out what scrolls they have, and then fighting for that scroll. And if that doesn't sound like a battle royale to you, then I don't know what does. Sure, there's no circle that gets smaller over time restricting the ninjas' movements, but there is a location you need to get to in order to finish the exam, which is the tower in the middle of the forest. So as time passes, more and more teams end up making their way into the center of the map, meaning that even though there's no storm circle closing in, the participants naturally gather in the final location towards the end. Basically, what I'm saying is, Naruto was doing battle royale before it was cool. And now I think that there's an anime game that could very well change the landscape for anime games in the future, and that game is My Hero Ultra Rumble. I think this game might be the first of many anime battle royales, a trendsetter if you want. Similar to what Tenkaichi and the Storm games were for arena fighters a few years ago. You know how every time there's a new anime game and it's an arena fighter, people go, "Oh, another arena fighter." Well, that happens because there have been quite a few of those. It's an easy formula to adapt to most IP and not a very expensive game to develop. And we owe this trend mainly to 2 game series, the Tenkaichi series and the Storm series. If it wasn't for the success of these 2, I don't think we would have seen so many arena fighters in the anime game space. And I think that's what Ultra Rumble will be for anime battle royales. A new formula that other anime IP will be able to look at and try to replicate. And I already thought this before the producer said it on Twitter, but more than 500,000 players played the open beta for Ultra Rumble. So now I believe this even harder, because this was a beta that was on PlayStation only. No Switch, no Xbox, no PC, so this was only a fraction of the player base. The biggest fraction, probably, but still, a fraction. And the marketing for this beta was so weak in my opinion, I ran into so many people that had no idea this was happening. So for this beta to be this popular under these conditions, yeah, I think this game has the potential to be a trendsetter. And with Naruto specifically, Bandai Namco is so well positioned to make something happen for a relatively low cost, as we already have 2 Naruto games in place that can make this happen. So here are 2 battle royale concepts that we could see in the near future, one of them using Shinobi Striker and another one using Storm. Yes, I'm gonna make it work with Storm. Strap in, because it's gonna get hot in here. So grab your gamer subs. If you want to know why gamer subs, check out the link in the description below. How did that just happen? First concept, Striker Royale. I've talked about this before, but this would basically be a new game mode in Shinobi Striker. So you can utilize Shinobi Striker's movement and basic hand-to-hand combat as well as jutsu. So you play as your own custom character, which I think is a big draw to this, and you drop in as a team into a bigger map than Shinobi Striker usually does. As you drop into the stage, you'll have a very basic loadout, which is different based on the type of character you picked. Attack types will all have the same default loadout, range types too, defense types, heal types, you get the gist of it. And what's cool about using Shinobi Striker for this is that the game already has a ton of jutsu available. And so, even though you drop in with a base jutsu, the idea is that you'll find these scrolls which will change one of your jutsu randomly. Or they could change your substitution, or your ultimate, even your weapon, or your ninja tool. The jutsu you find is random, but the basic idea is you have to fight with whatever you find. So now you have a team of ninja who are all running with a randomized loadout, trying to make the best of what they've been given. And the best part is, from a business standpoint, this game mode would work great as advertisement for DLC, because I think you should be able to pick up any jutsu in the game regardless of whether you own the DLC or not. I mean, at the end of the match, the jutsu just goes away, so it's not like the player just unlocks it permanently, but they got to try it, and now maybe they want to take it into flag battle or combat battle, and maybe they consider buying the DLC. It synergizes great with the rest of Shinobi Striker. In addition to the jutsu scrolls, I think the other scrolls could also be present. You know, the attack scrolls, cooldown scrolls, speed scrolls, the ones you get during the normal game modes. It gives players an objective to fight over, an objective to go towards, and maybe have some team battles instead of just hiding around during the entire match. And maybe those ultimate charge bottles could also pop up once in a while, so your team can build ultimate charge even if they don't find any other teams around you to fight. It makes a lot of sense, but here's why Bandai probably doesn't just do it. There are a few obstacles to a game mode like this. One, Shinobi Striker was released back in 2018, and at the time, the game wasn't built for anything like this. So you have to wonder if building this game mode is even possible by asking the following questions. Can the game handle more than 8 players in the lobby? Because I think the bare minimum for a battle royale game mode like this is going to be 24, just like Ultra Rumble. And that's already already on the lower side. That's 8 teams of 3 players or 6 teams of 4 players if they want to keep their 4-player team size, which makes sense given the class types, but personally, I think teams of 3 wouldn't be awful. It would force you to make some choices before the match even begins. Like, okay, which class type do we not take into the game? And you also gotta ask, can the game handle more than 2 teams? If it can handle 24 players, that's great, but can it handle 6 or 8 teams? Because you can have 24 players and all just battle solo, kind of like the Chunin Exams Arena, the survival mode that's in the game right now, but make it bigger, make it 24 players. That's great. But I do think that some class types would just be completely ignored if all you're doing is playing solo and not as a team. It would probably be a lobby of 24 heal types and no one dies until the circle closes. So teams are definitely preferred in my opinion, but we've never seen more than 2 teams in a game. Is it even prepared to do something like that? And finally, you gotta ask, bigger maps, do they work? I think they've made some pretty big maps in the previous season. That Hidden Cloud map is a pretty big area, but that's really big for 8 players only. Once you expand the player count to 24, that doesn't feel so big anymore. So can the game even handle bigger maps? I want to say yes, but then I remember how often the game crashes on a base PlayStation 4, entering just a normal match, and I wonder if we can even push it further. And speaking of new maps, that just reminds me how much crazy stuff they can do with the Shinobi Striker Battle Royale stage. You've got the doors that you can open or close by using the chakra charge. You've got the new teleporters. You've got so much that you can do vertically in this game, and the movement is something so very unique to it. I'm sure a Battle Royale would be a great fit and another way for them to sell DLC and keep the game alive, as it desperately needs a new game mode. But that's only the first concept. Let's talk about the next one. Concept number 2, Storm Royale. The other Naruto game that Bandai is making is Naruto Storm Connections, and with what I've played at Summer Games Fest, it does look like it is very based on Storm 4, which got me thinking, how would they even be able to make a Battle Royale out of this, and a way that doesn't have them rebuild the entire game? And the answer is basically Adventure Mode. Now in Storm 4, Adventure Mode has very limited mobility. We definitely need to change that. The Storm games have slowly lost a lot of mobility over time. The first Storm, you could jump all over the place with Naruto Cannon. Second game, they took that freedom away, and by the time we got to Storm 4, you couldn't even jump anymore. Heck, if we go back to the PlayStation 2 era, I think the freedom of movement was even bigger than the first Storm, and that's what I'd like to go back to. This isn't Shinobi Striker movement, there's no wire kunai, but there's some wall running, there's some sprinting, there's some ninja movement. And honestly, I think that's good enough. You wouldn't really fight in this game mode, but more on how battles happen in a little bit. First, I want to talk about a major difference between this and the Shinobi Striker Battle Royale we just talked about, which is that this does not use any custom characters. There's no character creation. This uses the Storm Connections roster, so you'd pick one of the characters and explore as that character instead of Naruto here. And you'd go into battle also using that same character with their moveset as it is in-game. Okay, but how would the battle work? Because you can't just make a battle system out here in the open world. They would have to build a whole new fighting system that accommodates for more than 2 players fighting at the same time. So what I was thinking is, when a player attacks you, you transition into arena battle mode. A bit like story mode in Street Fighter 6. You transition from open world exploration into the fighting game, or in this case, into the arena fighter. Now this transition isn't something that's easy to do. And we obviously don't need to do something that's so seamless. If we can, that's great. But I'm not expecting that much for something that will end up being a side game mode. If we can have something quickly that goes from open world into arena combat and back into open world, that's good enough. You can have a small loading screen in there. That's okay. Now the thing about this arena battle mode is that it's not just a versus battle. It would be, first of all, best of 1 rounds. This has to be a quick fight to get you back into the open world and try to survive. It's also not a team battle because you only pick 1 character, so it's a 1v1 without any assists, without any switches. The person who loses the arena battle is eliminated, and the person who survives goes back into the open world with that mobility that we just talked about. But the damage they've taken will persist. They can explore the world and find healing items to prepare for the next fight, and also loot a lot of items if they want to equip new stuff into their items on the D-pad. And that can include healing items, which would probably be very welcome since a player might just be waiting for your battle to end in order to jump you and start their own battle. You'll be bleeding probably, not at full health. That's the best time to jump you. I think when you leave a battle, you should have some invincibility in order to give you some time to adjust. You know, someone's gonna jump you, but like not immediately. Give me like 5 seconds of invulnerability so I can heal up before you jump me, please. Thank you. And I'm thinking that with these systems, this game mode can easily become a waiting game where every player is just gonna be waiting for 2 other players to fight and then jump them. And to counteract that, maybe we can just give a bonus to whatever player attacks first if they can catch someone from their back or whatever. Like a first hit type of bonus where they deal some damage, or maybe you can include some ninja actions, just like Street Fighter has some master actions that you can use in the open world to start battles with. I don't think a game mode like this would ever become the main thing in Storm Connections, but I'm sure it would be a welcome addition. And definitely another way to justify this being a sequel. The idea reminds me a bit of the Eliminator mode in Forza Horizon, which is also a battle royale, but with cars. And this is a mode that doesn't feel like the game's main attraction, but it's probably my favorite mode out of the entire game. It's not balanced, you have to rely a lot on luck to win, because you gotta find good cars randomly randomly, and when you challenge someone to a race, you can get really unlucky with a goal. But at the end of the day, it's a fun game mode that I enjoyed playing through a lot, and I got to try a ton of cars that I normally wouldn't otherwise. So maybe this is another way for them to sell DLC, who knows? All of this to say that Naruto definitely needs a battle royale, and right now there are 2 games currently in development that could be used for such a release. This is of course if Bandai Namco doesn't want to make its own separate game, but even then, they could very well use these games as a basis, just like they used a lot of attacks, models, and animations from One's Justice to create Ultra Rumble, or a lot of Xenoverse assets to create Dragon Ball The Breakers. I think we'll see more Battle Royale anime games in the future, and Naruto is probably your safest bet when it comes to trying that formula out with a different show. But if you're tired of anime games just following these formulas, maybe check out Sandland. I had a chance to play it, and I'll be able to talk about it very soon, but until then, check out this trailer reaction. The game is different, and I think you guys will like it. Boy.